Hey, Chuck.
How you doing?
How you? Just
Good.
checking stuff. I got. Oh, let me turn the audio off. Yeah, that's better. All right, let's get my mug on the screen with you. We didn't start yet. We're not stream. We're streaming, but we
We're in
haven't
the
started the podcast yet. We got a few more minutes. We
sure
got
thing.
7 minutes,
Okay.
but we are streaming. So
Cool.
you got anything you want to say? Tell me I'm ugly. Whatever. It's okay.
No, you're good.
Now's a good time. How are you? How you been?
Doing well. Yeah. So,
All right.
yeah, this year for the Huntsville show, actually, my brother Ben and Shannon are going to do the show.
Oh my
So
God, Chuck's not going.
I'm not going. No, there's actually a couple shows this fall I'm not going to be at as well, just because of meetings and stuff. So we have a government webinar for kind of an introduction piece with the
Okay.
Army. So unfortunately, it fell the same weekend as the show. And Ben's like, well, Friday isn't that big of a deal if it pulls you away for like a half an hour to do the interview with one group. But he goes, if
Right.
it's in the middle of the show on Saturday, he's like, that ain't worth it. He goes, just stay back. I'll take Shannon with me. She can see beautiful Huntsville and go from there.
Yeah, let me I'm just checking. We are streaming live, but we didn't start the show yet. There's no official start. It's just whenever I decide to start, we start.
No problems.
But I want to just give it some time. We got about 6 minutes, well, about 5 minutes until it's 6 o'clock, and then we'll get into the meat of the story. If you have any pictures or anything you want to show me. I have a link set up for your website so I
Okay.
can show people, and I got questions I want to ask you about that. I
Okay.
just got back from my happy place. One of my followers was down here on vacation, Greg from Utica, New York, and I told him if you ever come down, let me know. I'll come with you. And today was the only day we could do Kennedy Space Center. So
Okay.
got my new KSC hat. Ooh, with little gold leaves on her brow. I also got I got another one that looks more like a old fashioned kind of hat.
Right.
But
Now,
right now we're the only ones watching this, so nobody's
okay.
hearing us. I
Now,
only
have you
got
ever done the NASA tour in Houston here?
in Houston.
Yeah, the control center and everything is
No,
based
I
here in
never
the
did
whole
that.
9 yards.
I,
That's
ne- I
actually a
never.
neat tour as well.
I've actually never been to Texas. Don't tell anybody. All the Texans will get mad at me. But I think
Nah, they're
my
fine.
cousins moved there. My cousin Phil, he was the oldest son of my godmother, and he moved half his family over there.
Okay.
And they've been living in Texas for years, and they love it. They live in Allen, Texas.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean they love it. He was when I was starting to think of moving out of New Jersey, he was suggesting Texas, but I don't know, man. The Florida heat is only for a couple of months. It's really bad, like July and August.
Right.
After that, it's God's country here. I'm telling you, I'm loving it down here. Wait, you'd come down for Hamcation
Right.
in February, and you see how beautiful the weather was that day. Although it rained, a
Right.
couple of times, but that's Florida.
Yeah.
You don't like the weather? Wait 10 minutes. It'll change.
Yeah. I mean, our summers are pretty close to yours. We get the humidity though first thing in the morning because we're a swamp,
Right.
and then it burns off by about 10 o'clock and it's dry.
Yeah, we're in
We
humidity
don't.
24/7 here. You walk out of an air conditioned building and your glasses fog up.
Yeah, we don't. We don't get the
Yeah.
afternoon rainstorms you get. We get them like overnight a little bit, first thing in the morning,
I
and
saw a
then
funny
that's it.
video once. A lady goes, I often wondered why Floridians aren't afraid of hurricanes. It's because every day at about 3 o'clock they have a mini hurricane. It's
Yeah.
true. I was coming home from Kennedy Space Center today, and I mean it was hot,
Mhm.
and I'm driving home, and I look in the distance and I see lightning, and I'm like, oh, it's probably raining by my house. No, it was raining by Port Orange, and I mean raining like monsoon rain,
Mhm.
like floods in the highway. I mean, it was so fast it came down.
Yeah.
But then a couple miles later, the sun's out. I put my sunglasses back on. I'm driving along, having a good old time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
our rainstorms too.
so yeah, I'm not going to Huntsville either this year, and due to financial issues with traveling, I'm going to see my mom in
Sure.
Wisconsin at the end of the
Right.
month. So I won't be able to make it, but I'm going to make it my plan to try to get every person that's running POTA at Monsanto on Friday tomorrow. I'm going to try to
Okay.
get all of them in the book. To's running it right now. He's on, and Mike is doing POTA on FT8 right now, probably
Okay.
there. So I'm going to try to get them all on a hunting schedule here.
There you
Just
go.
hunt them all, have a good time with it. All right. Well, Let's see. It is 5:58. We're going to start now. Anybody comes in late, we can rehash.
Sure.
They can ask questions. I mentioned it to a few people. I posted it on Facebook that you were going to be here. And if you
Okay.
think I'm going to just ask you about coax, you got another thing coming. How I'm going to start here right at the beginning. I'm sure you didn't wake up one day and said, "Hey, you know, it'd be cool if I made a company that made wire." That wasn't your plan, I don't think. So
Nope.
somehow ABR got started. And I'm going to take people on a little tour of your website eventually where it shows all the different areas you're in. I mean, it's not just coax for ham radios. There's so
Right.
much other stuff. And I think you should tell people about that because you don't get to tell people that a lot. You just talk
Right.
about the coax, but there's so much more to ABR. So
Right.
how did it start and when? When did it start?
So um, this is actually the second venture in wire and cable for me. It's the fourth one if you were to talk to my father. So my dad got into the wire and cable business through Annixter Wire in Chicago. They were privately held. My
Okay.
great uncle Shell actually worked there as well. So he was an employee and he got my dad into the business. And my dad was actually racing harness before that. So
What's that? Racing harness.
harness racing, where they're in the
Oh, like
sulkies.
in the Sulkies?
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he did it for the better part of about 7 years. Decided to get out of that. Came back to Chicago. Was living at my grandmother's house, and had to find a job. So my great uncle offered him a job at Annixter. Um, my dad then went to go to another company called Consolidated, and had worked in distribution for a while.
Right.
During that process of me growing up around it and him being a ham, I had been exposed to amateur radio pretty much all my life for the most part. I mean, and started learning to do things like code and stuff like that and the whole 9 yards. And it wound up being a interesting turn of events. He decided that after a surgery that he wanted to open his own business. Don't know where his thoughts were coming from. I was a junior in high school at that point,
Right.
and he started a company. Some people may know of Cable Experts. Um,
I don't think you got to remember,
and
I'm new. I'm
yeah,
3
you're
years into the
newer.
hobby. I'm 3 years into the hobby, so I might not know these people, but I
No
have heard the
problem.
name Cable Experts.
So Cable Experts, we started back in 1989. And we started to do shows selling kind of just different wire and cable products. Kind of whatever the hams were looking for, we tried to, work out ourselves into, whether it was some of the coax or multi-conductor cables, power cables, you name it. And the same recurring theme kept happening where people just struggled putting the connectors on. Harder to see, more difficult to do. The iron's hot. They burned the dielectric. So we decided to kind of look at what that next step was for that business and decided to get into the cable assembly business. And from there, kind of took off like a rocket ship.
So is it all family run? Is it like Shannon is
Shannon
who to
is,
you?
so yeah, so just to get a little fast forward here, today, ABR Industries is our second venture. We sold off the other company back in 2005. In 2010, our non-competes were up, so we started ABR Industries. And from there,
So you sold Cable Experts.
mm-hmm,
Okay,
yeah,
and then became just KBR after you were
we started ABR
yeah,
2010.
you had a non-compete that when that ran out, that's when you started ABR.
Exactly.
Okay.
I did some moonlighting work for LG during that period, some other stuff on HD TVs, all that fun stuff. But we decided since the non-compete was up, customers were asking us to come back. We decided let's give it another go with this venture. More or less, my dad was looking to retire, but he could do a startup for a few years. So
Right.
he started with Shannon to kind of just get the ball rolling.
Now,
Started
Shannon to you is what?
my sister-in-law.
She is okay. She's
Yep.
your sister-in-law, and your brother who went to Huntsville is
Is
her husband.
Benjamin. Yes. And they will both be at
I'm
Huntsville
making
this
sense out
weekend.
of this now.
Yep.
Okay.
So, so my partners are Ben and Shannon. Shannon's president of the company. Ben handles. Thank you, Roger. Ben handles most of the kind of back channel work with some of the marketing, and also deals with some of the other customer issues, more from the production side of things. So that's
Right.
kind of Ben's more behind the scenes than any one of us. I handle the technical side of things. I kind of pretty much grew up with that anyways, and decided that, for me coming on board, we decided let's take the company and bring it up to the next level. So started focusing on a lot of tooling. Today we automate just about everything except for soldering the center pin. We are actually working with a company to do a robot for that. In about 3 years, we will have that.
Cost a few bucks to buy that robot, I would imagine. I'll just ask you to do it for me.
The stripping, the stripping tools themselves, to be honest with you, the big stripping machines and stuff like that are expensive enough.
Right.
But we're looking at a robot to do more of the soldering. We're also looking at some other components. The people are always going to be here. They're always kind of an attribute. They're important to us, but if we can give them better tools and make it easier for them to do their jobs, that was the point.
Right.
And so we automated quite a bit. Testing even gets automated from the standpoint of just it's plug and play with the machines, with the TDRs. And
now, what fields are you in besides ham radio? Tell people what you do other than ham radio.
So amateur radio, and then the commercial side is broken up into kind of a couple different segments. We do a lot of stuff with wireless in general. So can be everything considered from two-way radio to cellular. We kind of lump those guys together a little bit, tower-related products.
Right.
We do a lot with the RFID folks and the tracking systems. We've kind of lumped those guys together. They're not really belonging together, but we do it anyways. So we do a lot of those wireless systems. And then we also do kind of a little bit of what we call our other for wireless commercially.
Right.
Because there's everything from wireless video systems. So we do some 75 ohm products in there. We also do a couple of components for it's more or less toys and tracking systems, but still. So it's kind of I hate to say it, it's a broad mix of products. And we do a lot of then from there OEM products too. So we build a lot of cable assemblies for customers.
You mentioned 75 ohm cable. And as a guest, I also have on here my buddy Ziggy, the 75 ohm ham. We'll add him into the stage. Ziggy, you got any questions for Chuck?
Hey, man. How's the weather?
He's in Texas. It's hot there, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chuck, so I was, first of all, I'm a little discombobulated because I just got in from Kennedy Space Center and I'm exhausted. I was walking around all day with my buddy Greg, who just happened to stop by to say hi. Hi, Greg. I'm glad we had the day together at Kennedy Space Center. We had a lot of fun. And the Smoking Ape is here. The Smoking Ape. He love your YouTubes. Aw, he likes Glenn's YouTubes. Or is he like, who's saying that? Glenn's telling the Smoking Ape he loves the YouTubes. Smoking Ape saying hi to Ziggy. And Glenn's getting thanked by the Smoking Ape. The Smoking Ape's a great guy. And I think Ziggy's walking in his footsteps. That's why he's Ziggy and not a call sign.
I mean, a call sign to me, you might as well put your driver's license number on a T-shirt. It's just another government issued ID. It's not who you are. And I don't like that people think that their call sign is their credentials. I kind of want that to be destigmatized from the ham radio community.
Greg says I was an awesome guide at Kennedy Space Center. Thanks, Greg. I made it home through a torrential downpour on 95. It was incredible, but thank God I got new tires, so I wasn't scared. All right, Ziggy, I'm going to take you off the screen for a second, and I want to show ABR Industries page. Don't go away. Stay here. Anyway, you're welcome, Greg, for meeting up. All right. So what I'm going to do, I just got to remember how to do it. All right. Here goes podcast display. Here's your page. Let me see. Let me turn off the chat on this screen so we don't get blanked out. All right. Here's the page for ABR Industries. And, oh, you're not seeing it. Hold on. There it is. Now you see it. And I'll make me the whole screen. So I'm going to remove you, Chuck, but I could still hear you. So here's ABR Industries, and here's what blew my mind tonight. I've never done this. I've always come to this page and clicked on consumer and looked up what cables I wanted. But this little thing up here, product information. We got products. You can get everything. Amateur radio, cable builder, color sheaths. I love the color sheath idea. Commercial coax builder. That's great. Data sheets. Cable descriptions and customer cable quote. So you can actually go here and put in the cable you want and find a quote for it on how much it is. And let's see, you got a contact screen, but you do commercial, government agencies, consumer, that's us, wireless, Wi-Fi, WiMAX. What is WiMAX? I never heard that. That's interesting. And RFID. So why don't you tell us about that, Chuck? What's the WiMAX?
The WiMAX side of things is kind of more like the AT&T systems,
Right.
dealing a little bit more with the cellular based. It's one of those areas that some of our customers have bred themselves into from Wi-Fi.
Right.
So it's more of a blended, becoming more of a blended system, I guess, as time's gone on. So we deal with, we've dealt with a lot of customers that, Wi-Fi is, for you, for your home and stuff like that, is great and it's very easy. But for a lot of these rural companies, it
Right.
is really hard because they are trying to produce internet and have a high speed system for hundreds of miles in some cases, multiple network towers.
You delve
we
it all
build
into
cables.
fiber optics?
We will have fiber optics. That is something we actually put off due to COVID, believe it or not.
I believe it.
And so we decided with that to kind of wait and look at the other tooling, that robot first. And then from there, because we actually were lined up with a supplier to do some fiber, the multi-mode, single mode, a number of different configurations. We were going to have a guy doing CAD for us in the whole 9 yards, and we kind of put a halt to it.
I worked for Verizon, and
Okay.
When I retired in 2010, I still can't believe it's been 14 years I haven't worked. No, I shouldn't say that. I've worked a lot. I just haven't worked at Verizon for 14 years. But my job when I left was putting in the first service into a cell tower with fiber optics, and the other thing was working on 911 systems for the police. Every police station had a 911 system with 2 monitors, and you had to get the data traveling back and forth. It was a lot of fun. It was really good. And I was goody two-shoes when I worked for the phone company. I didn't do pot. I didn't drink. And they gave me all those jobs because all the guys I worked with were drunks and drug addicts. So I got to do the cool work with the cops. I knew almost every cop in Bergen County at the time. It was a lot of fun. And actually, Mawa police freaked out when they heard I was retiring. They're like, who's going to work our system? It was like the Mawa police had a system that only they and Jersey City had. And I was one of 2 guys in the whole state of New Jersey that knew how to fix it. So he freaked out, when I was retiring. But I told him, I said, don't worry, the phone company will find somebody. Well, now they got rid of that altogether. They don't maintain it anymore. They make the cities hire private contractors to maintain their 911 systems, which blew my mind. But so it's a good thing I retired because my job isn't there anymore. The job I love the most. And but in the fiber optic area or in the cell sites, there was a lot of coax in there. That's where I learned how to put on a BNC connector.
Mm-hmm.
Was doing that for the phone company because that's what they use mostly. They use it for all kinds of data and stuff like that. So the cable part is it goes like you don't even everybody thinks about the best radio. What's the best radio for HF? What's the best radio for this? What's the best antenna for this? If you have crappy coax, it's all moot. Nothing's going to work. So you got to have good stuff. And what I loved about yours, by the way, yours was the first coax as a new ham that I bought, 100 feet of it, and had a little green tag on it. And I'm looking at it going, UV resistant. Ooh, that's good. And I went, variable. Variable? I could bury this? I was like, man. And in Florida, that's how we run our cables out to our antennas. We laid in the grass with some sod spikes, right?
Mhm.
And then the grass just grows over it in 2 weeks. You don't even see it anymore. Sometimes you dig a trench. Like sometimes I'll dig a trench for it, especially if I'm doing ABR 400. I mean, LMR 400. I'll bury it because you don't want that laying on top when you come by with the lawnmower. But it's fantastic. I love it. So yeah, I've been using ABR from day one, and you helped me out when I got my new tower. By the way, would you like to see the tower?
Sure.
Let's see. We can go over here. Ta-da! Oh wait, I didn't switch it yet. Hold on. It's amazing how to use 2 different programs to do this. So there's my tower. That is the zoomed in shot on the Yaesu rotor, but I can switch it to a wide angle shot and get an idea. It's 40 feet high, and I got all those trees behind me. So I had to do something to get the trees out of there. So to get the antennas above the trees. So that LMR 400 you sold me, that goes from there all the way back to my main protection box, which, by the way, they're not lightning arresters. They're not lightning protection. They're, what's the word I'm looking for? They mitigate. They're not necessarily, no direct hit is going to save you. If you have a direct hit, it's not going to work. You're still going to lose everything. As I witnessed by my buddy Jim just found out that his repeater got hit and he lost everything. All right. Roger Weed is asking a question, asking me to do something here. Oh, and Andy Cowley came. Hey, Andy. Welcome. For a cable builder, please mention what is the $5 for the sweep option.
So for you as a customer, we actually will test the fully built assembly, pretty much from whatever frequency starts off with, obviously, but we go all the way up to the maximum performance of the connectors that are involved, and then give you the details in regards to insertion loss, as well as check VisWire and make sure that everything is performing correctly. All of our cables are still continuity and high pot tested because that's part of a process to check the connection itself.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to double checking the electrical performance, that's where that sweep testing comes in. Is it a necessary evil? No, a lot of hams do have tools and equipment that they can use to check it as well. Right. But some of them just want us to have it kind of as a reassurance. You've got a long piece of cable, you're hooking up to a tower like you just said, and you want to make sure everything's running right and match up the information that you should be getting. We can provide that data in that test as well. So it's kind of I guess another way to take a good look at the cable and just make sure that you're getting what you should be expecting. And it's part of a standardized test when we do batch testing. We have a long relationship with a lot of these factories, and a lot of the test reports that I provide to them on a monthly basis are part of their ISO process. So a lot of them don't actually do much in the way of complete RF testing or other tests, high pot and everything else. So we do a lot of things as kind of a feedback loop for our relationship with the different vendors. It's just a good way to kind of make sure everything's in check and we don't have any issues.
I figured now's a good time for me to tell you, those chokes, let me get it on the screen. I'll show you, here you go. You can see these coaxes wrapped around toroids. I've been experimenting with that with toroids I got on Amazon or whatever, and they ain't doing that word. I'm not going to say it. They're not doing anything. And I'm still getting RFI. What happens is when for instance, if I was doing a satellite pass right now and I got my 7300s running FT8 right now, trying to get TO, who's not answering me. I don't know why he's not answering me, but he's up in Monsanto. Anyway, when the 7300 transmits and I'm doing a satellite pass, I hear a hum in my headphones, and it sounds like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a ground fault, fault loop or something. And I thought the Torides would solve it. They're not yours, so I really need to buy yours.
Well, on the audio side, I mean, there are times where headphone wires and stuff are pretty flimsy. You might want to get a clamp type and just wrap it a few times and see if that takes care of the audio buzz.
There's an idea. All right, I'll try that. I will definitely give that a shot. Ziggy does a lot of work on antennas. Ziggy, you got any questions for Chuck?
I mean, not really. We spoke the other day, and Chuck's going to get together some material for me. I've got a pretty slick idea about what I'm attempting to do, and it is basically a choke, but it's going to be utilizing a few different type of mixes, and I'm really looking forward to experiment with that. So, yeah, I had talked to Chuck yesterday about the coax that he does stock, and we were talking. I was saying I was interested in some flexible stuff, and the amount of product that this company probably has is probably mind blowing. I can't even begin to imagine. So he told me about the two different main styles of PL connectors that they use, and I'm pretty excited to see that. I kind of want to get away from the old school way of doing things and look at some of the new school crimp style PL connectors.
Yeah, I'm looking into that too. I already talked to Chuck about that myself. I have to trim out the excess cables from the antenna that I put up, and now I can do it. I'm not going to do it until I get back from Wisconsin. Probably sometime in September, I'll start messing with it. But I'm going to trim out all the excess coax that I have out there, because I ordered larger cables purposely so that I didn't run out. And the last thing I wanted to do was have to add a piece on later. I don't want to have to do that. So that's why I did that. By the way, anybody watching, I put a link in the chat and I pinned it. If you want to come on with us with Chuck and Ziggy and talk, you're more than welcome to join us. So click on the link and I'll get you on the stage. Chuck, do you have anything special well, first of all, before you tell us, if you want to go buy coax from ABR Industries, abrind.com, use my code ABR10 Ham Fun, get 10% off the purchase. And trust me, you won't be sorry. They make great stuff. They're not the only coax company in the world, but they're one of the best. I put you up there top two.
I thought that they were the only one in existence from the way that you talk, Mike.
Hear that, Chuck? More free stuff. Send it to me. I'm doing the best I can. Thanks, Ziggy. I'll give you the $20 later.
Good time, buddy.
Well, what I love about it, like I said, I've had like the coaxes I originally had on my satellite antennas. They've been underground for years and not a problem. Nothing wrong with them. The only problem I had was they were too short. So I added an extension from about a foot off the ground up to the antennas. And I didn't seal it good enough, and water got in there. And one night it was freezing out, and when I turned on everything in the morning, it was a mess. The antenna was gone, and I opened it up, and it's all green and cracked and messed. And I was like, "Oh God!" That's one of the reasons why I ordered such long cables. I probably could have got away with 75 foot, but I ordered 100 foot each for the LMR 400 for the satellite antennas because I didn't want any joints in the middle. So that's what we did, and it worked. So.
Chuck, did Mike tell you why they call me the 75 ohm ham?
No, I don't know.
So
he did mention 75 ohm cable though.
My antenna garden is about an acre that way, and I had a friend who came over and just dropped off some 75 ohm, like 1,000 foot spool of it. He said, "Just hook it up, man. Life's too short." And as a young ham at the time, like it just like my brain wouldn't allow me to do it, and I just got tired of not being on the air. So I finally I got some F to PL changeover gender benders, and that it was better than I could have ever imagined. And in fact, it opened up a whole new door to radio to me, because what I was doing with my 80 meter fundamental infed was it was using the coax, the feed line, and it was enabling this very broad-banded type system. And it, you can call it loss or whatever you want. I call it usability, and it completely changed everything that I know about radio. A lot of people don't understand that your feed line is a part of your antenna system, whether you want to admit it or not.
Well, it's like the tires on a car, right? You could own a high performance vehicle and you could put crappy tires on there. It's not going to last very long. That's kind of the same way you got to treat your coax. If you got a nice vehicle and it works great, you'd rather just put the better tires on there, make sure that it works and tugs the road and everything else. So it's kind of an interesting analogy to try to use from time to time, just helping people to understand.
You remember that commercial? There's only one thing that separates you from the road, and that's your tires.
Yes. So
I'm looking at the page now. I wanted to mention this to people too. If you have a rotor, a Yaesu rotor, they make the cables for the controller. I mean, these things are, let me get that back up there. Let me show you in a larger, these are the control cables for a Yaesu rotor, and it has all the plugs on it already. You don't have to solder anything. They work great, and they're also buriable, and they're UV resistant, because Chuck and Shannon make sure of that, and their company, that's what they do. So keep that in mind if you're building a satellite rig at your home and you want to have good cable for the controller, because the cable, it doesn't come with cable. They just give you the plugs, and you got to basically build the plug yourself. ABR does everything for you, and they'll make any length you want. You want it 100 feet, you want it 50 feet, they'll do it. They'll make it for you, right? You custom make that too, right, Chuck?
Custom make everything. Yep, everything is built to order. So
right. So yeah, and I was saying this before. I was telling it before, Ziggy. I don't know if you were on yet, but you could have the best radio, you could have the best antenna, but if you got crappy coax or used coax or coax that gets wet and gets destroyed, yeah, it's not getting anywhere. So
there's one topic that not a lot of people like to talk about, is that about the water ingress into your coax. A friend of mine had this weird issue where his antenna was perfect some days and completely out of whack on the other days. And what we discovered is that he had about 4 feet of water ingress into the shielding of his coax. And it was helping to create a perfect match. So whenever it was like wet and damp outside and some water got into the coax, the radio loved it.
Right. And I was just explaining how I got, when I had that ice buildup in my connector, because I had a lousy water protection there, I had to cut off 3 feet of cable until I saw where there was no water damage in the cable anymore, because it was all turning green and stuff inside the cable. The center core was getting messed up. The water goes all the way down the cable. So I had to keep cutting it off until I found clean, dry, not messed up stuff. And so it's good I moved it, because now that cable's not in the system anymore. It's completely, and that wasn't ABR. That was cheap Amazon cable I bought. Oh, we're hearing the baby. Roger, my buddy Roger, is saying that on field day, that's what we were using when we did down in Lake County with the Lake County Amateur Radio Society Association.
Oh, cool. That's always great to know.
Cable. I
got one for Chuck.
Go ahead,
Chuck. If there's something that you could tell all the amateur radio operators out there right now, one thing to stop doing and one thing to start doing with their coax, what would that be?
I would say stop worrying about, stop panicking about the numbers. What I mean by that is, when you're looking at a piece of equipment or a test and stuff like that, a lot of people focus on one particular frequency set, and they get a little nervous when they say the Viz wire is higher than, let's just say 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 1. The product still operates. Every system may not always be perfect. And that's where you look to say, okay, what can I do to improve it? Can I improve it through the antenna? Can I improve it through the other devices? Do I really, do I have to use a tuner? In some cases, you might have to use a tuner. I mean, that's what they're there for. The tuner's there so you hear it, you can operate it, right? That's the whole point of having a tuner. But people panic over the numbers. Go out there, have fun. Go play radio, go make some QSOs. You can always improve the system as you go on. And I think that's our hardest thing to explain to people, as you can become so blinded with perfection that it becomes hard, because people become disappointed in the sense that, my system's not perfect. Every system is not going to be perfect. I've had plenty of them that weren't fantastic and still operated, pretty decently across the U.S. for contests, other events, things like that. I mean, that's probably the toughest thing to kind of explain. And, you can always get back to it from later on. One of the things to start doing is, I would always say, with your system, with the coax and stuff like that, I can't stress it enough, because you guys were talking about the water ingress, because it sucks up like a straw.
Mm-hmm.
Even wrapping electrical tape on your ends, I prefer to see. There's nice mastic from 3M. It cuts away. It's nice. There is butyl. It's very sticky, but try putting some sort of protection on your connections. Is a big one, because that's probably the number one issue that we see when they come back in here. Is, for a lot of people, we tell them, we got to cut back about 10, 15, 20 feet out of a 100-foot line just to get the water out of it. And we can still do that, retest for it, seal it up again. But wrapping your connectors is just it's a huge issue, because water gets into everything, and it's awful. And unfortunately, everybody just wants to plug and play. But that's one of the nice ape. I'm not surprised by that statement either.
That's because he's not going to Huntsville.
Oh. But
that's why he's walking around with no pants on.
Yeah, a quick wrap of material is always good. And 3M makes a lot of mastics that don't permanently stick forever. So that's just food for thought. But it's one of those components that helps out.
When I'm not lazy, I use it. They have that self-amalgamating tape at Home Depot or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you guys sell a product like that too, right? You call it coax seal?
Well, we sell the coax seal mastic. That is a pretty generic mastic. It's a putty type. Right. But I always recommend somebody taking a piece of electrical tape and wrapping the connector first, and then wrap it with the coax seal, because it's formable. Because it doesn't take much.
I'm just putting it on the screen. I can still hear you.
We live in where it's warmer. Coax seal it's still soft. It really never hardens. And so for some people, if you don't love it, I understand. But like I said, there's a lot of other products too. And I don't like to poo-poo the coax seal, because we sell a lot of it to guys. Actually, it's a big popular mover for the guys that do the airplane trackers and stuff. They love coax seal. They wrap it on everything. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of great products out there. But like I said, a little bit of tape and the mastic, and you're going to save yourself from a lot of headaches. Now, just a quick comment. We seal all the ends of the connectors, just because it is the easiest thing to get water in there. So if you're putting it on yourself, I always recommend, when I see pictures of that, that's great, but put some tubing on there, just because the back end of the connector is the first place the water is going to creep in.
Right.
The next, obviously, is at the connection itself, but even a little bit of tubing works wonders.
Well, it was funny. We had, back in the day, when people had phones in their homes. Ziggy, what are you doing? Renovating a house?
Oh, it's the witching hour. Nurses get off at 6:30.
Oh, well, when we used to put up wires to homes and they got knocked down and we had to splice them, they were very heavy-duty, stiff wire, but we would put brass connectors between each end and crimp it, and then each one would get wrapped in a rubber tape, actual rubber tape, and then we would wrap that electric tape.
Mhm.
And it worked, but there was a couple of guys ski with it and just did the electric tape, and sure enough, we're back there in 6 months because water got in. Water will get in an electric tape connection. See, like down here by me, even if the water gets in there, it's not going to get in bad where it'll get on the connector maybe, but it's not going to get into the cable. Unless it gets cold, which it does 2 or 3 days a year, we get to below freezing. And if you have some rain or your sprinkler system hits the connection and then it freezes that night, it's going to crack something, it's going to break something, it's going to open it up. And you have to use either the self-amalgamating tape, which is also pretty easy to cut off. If you split it down the middle, you could just peel it back. But you have to use something like that under the electric tape, which I didn't do on my satellite antennas. But now, thanks to Ziggy, I can raise and lower that thing at a drop of a dime. I'll bring it down, and I'll do it the right way eventually when I go buy that tape. But for now,
because it's a long way over to your house every time that we need to have a Ziggy conference about your tower.
If anybody watched my latest video on the tower, I showed you how I can lower it down. I did a time-lapse video and raise it back up. And thanks to
all
Ziggy,
by himself.
All by myself. And all I got to do is guide the cable on the winch. And by the way, I'm probably going to put another length going up to the top pulleys, Ziggy, just to give it another thing to make it a little bit easier to handle.
Yep, that'll be another service call.
No, I can do that myself. I got plenty. See, the reason I'm saying that is because the 100-foot cable is actually pretty long. You know, it's pretty long, and it's gives me a lot of extra options on it now. I have 2 double pulleys.
Chuck, I got one more for you, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, ask him.
What's one of the biggest old Elmer's tales about coax that you would like to disprove for everybody?
He's only been into it his whole life.
So this one actually goes more towards the coax itself, but also the connectors. We're strong believers in soldering the center pin. Creates a great continuity point. It's a good joint. But a lot of people still are, they want the braid soldered, and PL259s, we do have the solder types for the braid, and we still offer them, and we still support them 100%. But crimping has come such a long way as far as a connection mechanism now for the braid. It's not a hand tool. It's an industrial crimper. It's a 2-ton press that we have. We've got a couple of them in the back. I mean, these things, crush them down to nice, perfect, shapes. And they're extremely strong. And I know a lot of people hear, well, it's crimped. It's not on there. Is it on there? And people have had bad luck with tools. I mean, because there's a lot of cheap, chintzy tools out there on Amazon and stuff like that. But a lot of them, they're, the good commercial tools and stuff like that, I mean, they hold up very well. But don't dismiss the crimping just, because an Elmer says it's got to be soldered. Because the hardest thing to also get across in that whole argument is my best people, when they solder, the solder only touches about 200 degrees of the interior of the connector. When it's crimped, it's 360 degrees. So your conductivity and your connection, there's no capacitance gaps, there's no issues, and it's ready to rock and roll.
That crimp, does it go past the, does it go tighter than the actual diameter of the coax? Like, is it that hard of a crimp?
It's a pretty strong piece. It just from a pull test standpoint, because I think that's maybe a better way to answer your question.
Probably
it's an 800-pound pull test, so it's pretty strong. So it takes quite a bit for those to come apart. So it crimps down about another, in the neighborhood of anywhere from about 7 to 8% of the body shape when we do crimp them down into place.
That's a pretty hard crimp. Everybody watching, that's impressive.
Don't get crimpers from Temu, the ape says. And I totally agree with him. It's almost as good as the 17-foot whip you got, isn't it? I don't know if you heard the story. Ape ordered a 17-foot whip, and he got a bunch of other stuff. He never got the whip.
I got my 17-foot whip. It's great.
If it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Why did
Ape's missing out.
Disappear?
Now, one other sidebar comment.
Right.
It is always good to know how to solder connectors on for that one forbidden time when you're out and about, field day, out on an activation, stuck at home, and you know how that process works. It doesn't have to be pretty, but if it gets you back on the air for that short period of time, we're more than happy to help explain, give some insight, show some tricks, so that gets you back up and running. Because that is a nice characteristic for people. Is it doesn't have to be beautiful to work, and as long as it gets you on the air and makes you happy for a short period of time, you can always fix it later.
So I don't know if you guys noticed my picture. There's no more Geocron. Geocron just decided to take a dump. Oh, now it's coming back. It's rebuilding itself now. This is what I get. It's resetting itself. I have been screaming at these people. Their company. I'm going to tell you this right now. Do not go out and buy a Geocron. Don't do it. This thing has been crapping out on me constantly. You email them and tell them.
You hear this, Chuck? You better watch out.
No, I'm just saying. Patrick from Geocron, I personally talked to him in Orlando last year, and I said, you cannot keep telling people we're a small company. We'll answer your call, your text, your email when we get to it. They answer emails at 5 o'clock at night. That's the only time they answer emails. So they'll send you something like, you send them an email saying, hey, when I turned it on, it did A, B, C, and D. And they send it back, an email back goes, which version of the Geocron do you have? So you tell them. And then they don't answer that email till 5 o'clock tomorrow. And then they write back, go, well, try this. And that don't work. So you email them back. Then they don't answer that till 5 o'clock tomorrow. It is absolutely the worst support system invented. And Patrick keeps coming on in his videos saying, oh, you have to understand we're a small company. No, I paid $400 for that thing. It should not keep crapping out like this. You just saw it live on my stream. It died. Now it's rebuilding itself. If it comes back, chances are it's going to have every option known to man on. And I'm going to freaking lose it because it takes hours and days to set this thing up the way I want it with the right satellites on the screen. And I'm sorry about the rant. Oh,
it's all right.
I can't help it.
Chuck, do you sell lossy coax?
Lossy coax?
Yeah.
As in...
So there's a kind of coax that I learned about. It's called lossy coax, and its whole purpose is not to be great coax. It's meant to actually be a radiator itself.
Oh, yes. That's more from a Heliac standpoint.
Okay.
It's hard to do with a braided product. It's easier to do with a hardened shell, like a corrugated copper. We do sell a version from it from Andrew Corp. It's cut to different frequencies.
Okay, and like half wavelengths?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's probably a user error. Ape's getting on my case about my Geocron. Well, it came back. I don't know if it's back the way I left it, but we'll see. But I had turned off the, what do they call it, automatic maintenance that they do every night at 2 a.m. I turned that off. And what ended up happening was the TLE data for the ISS was wrong. It was showing the ISS already passed me when it was just rising. I wrote them about that, and they go, well, it might be, you got to send us a debug log. Yeah, that goes into the ether. They don't do anything with that. I don't know. I'm frustrated with them. Somebody else has to start making this to do a better job. That's what it is. Competition is going to ruin them. So
Chuck, what's one of the coolest products that you sell, and why is that?
So one of the fun new ones is the sheaths. We do a wide variety of these different colors. They're abrasion resistant. So you got the coax itself, and then we put the sheath over it so that you can run it against the ground. You can pull, twist, turn, do a lot of highlighted colors. We do it pretty much in every color under the sun. We actually have a red, white, and blue one that we're introducing at the show this weekend, as well as an army green version that'll be there, as far as 2 new colors. So the nice thing about them is just easily identifiable, so that you can match them up as patch cords. You can run them as cables for, like I said, anything POTA or activations, or see it around the house or whatever else works best for you.
Is that a solid material sheath, or is that the old finger trap stuff?
It's a webbing.
It's the webbing.
Yep. So it is actually a piece that it's a woven piece. So
I was going to get like the RG318, the small stuff to use for POTA, and Shannon talked me out of it.
You're getting a little too high as far as the length goes against the performance. We could give you a better product, which is what we wound up doing.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing great with that. And Chuck, you got any special sales going on? You got the red, white, and blue.
Got your promo piece that we're doing right now as well. So you got the 10% off. There is some discounted pricing that's already built into the site as well. With your promo, you can plug it right on top of it. So,
that's cool.
So you got that. You can also plug in. And like I said, any of the assemblies can be customized to whatever your needs are. We do special tubing markers. So you can put your name, call sign on there. You can identify it to which antenna. Some of that, is important if you got multiple lines at home, but even more so if you're out there doing POTA with a bunch of guys in Alabama right now, and you don't know whose cable's who, and Mike steals everything from you. Hopefully he's listening somewhere.
Mike K at MRD?
Yes, walks off with your cable. You can put your name on there and get it back.
He's running POTA right now, FT8, by the way.
I pulled his chain.
He's already there, and so's T.O., and probably Jason's there already because he goes, and Frank, they'll all be there. I'm going to try to I might do a live stream tomorrow, just trying to hunt all the guys doing POTA at Monsanto. So, because I'm not going this year. But they're going to have a good time. I'm happy for them that they're all going there and having a good time. I also turned them on to a great steakhouse. Have you ever been to Connor's?
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh, you got to go to Connor's. The best. This makes Ruth Chris look like ShopRite steak. It does.
Okay.
It's good stuff. And Jim, my Elmer, ND1C, he turned me on to it. And I've gone with him at least in the last 3 years. And it's the first time I'm not going. They're going to be there. Oh. They're probably going Saturday night for Connor's.
I mean, I know everybody likes Rosie's for Mexican. That's pretty good there.
Right.
To give everybody an idea of just how professional ABR is, Chuck, would you mind divulging like one of the biggest invoices that you've ever pumped out, like how much that was?
Oh, as far as our biggest order to date?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, right now we were just shy of 500K for one invoice. So
no wonder you can afford to give my followers 10% off.
We are privately held, but yes, we do quite well.
I'm so glad. I love to hear a successful.
We're a healthy business. We're run right. We pay our employees bonuses. They're part of our system, so they get money it's twice a year. Shouldn't say once a year. It is twice a year. They get their bonuses and stuff like that. So
excellent. Well, I find it to be amazingly easy to use. It's durable. I have the first piece I ever bought. I'm still using. So it's been up there 3 years and it's doing great. So yeah. Iman says Iman's up in Northern Ireland, by the way. That MI7 DJT.
Okay.
And I'll give you a hint why he got that call sign. Well, figure it out. You can figure it out. DJT.
Chuck, it was great to meet you, and I hope we get to talk more in the future. And I really appreciate you answering my crazy questions.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, I've
He'll
got
be
your
in
info pack and
Orlando.
everything, and we'll get it off to you, and we'll get things going. But yeah, I mean, just whatever, like I said, the whole point is trying to be easy to work with. And one thing I can't say enough, still talking about Ben and Shannon, especially with Shannon. Shannon is phenomenal at customer service. She will give the shirt off her back. She will do everything she can to help people out. If you're stuck, if you pick something wrong, if you got a lead time issue, if you need help, support, whatever else. And like I said, myself and Ben will do everything we can. But Shannon's usually the first person that can grab the phone sometimes, and she does. She's very active with the customers. Don't be afraid to ask any questions of us, and especially the way Shannon operates. She'll jump through hoops.
Yeah, I talked to Shannon. She was absolutely a treat when I talked to her on the phone. So
if you go back
big win on that one.
For my followers, if you go back in my videos, I did an interview last year at Hamcation with Chuck and Shannon, and those videos are up there talking about the sheath, and they show close-ups of the sheath and how they do that. So go back and make sure you use my code ABR10 Ham Fun. ABR10 Ham Fun is the code. You get 10% off on top of whatever sales they're having already. So you can't lose. It's a great thing. But
all right, guys, I'm out of here.
Be well, Ziggy.
Thanks for stopping
Thank
by.
you.
Have a great night. Take care. All right, so Ziggy's got to go, but we got a few more minutes here. Does anybody have any questions for Chuck? Any coax questions? Who's he betting on in the election? Whatever you want to ask him, ask him.
I hate to say it, guys. I am a White Sox fan. I grew up in Chicago. So right now I am more worried about who the hell my coach is ever going to be next year.
Right?
It is awful. It is a terrible year.
But I've had, believe me, I went through the 70s with the Yankees. So people said, "You're a Yankee fan?" I'm like, I have to be, because it was when they were so bad. One of my biggest heartbreaking things, this blew my mind. Don Mattingly comes into the Yankees in 1987, plays every year till 1996 and retires. They won a World Series in 85 and they won a World Series in 97. And he never got to be in a playoff.
Nope.
Well, he was in playoffs, but he never won a World Series. I felt so bad. And now I think he coaches the Giants out in San Francisco now. But
that's the way baseball is. It's just it's a rough game of love.
This a guy in freaking this is amazing to me. A guy in Northern Ireland knows who Lori Lightfoot is. I don't believe me. I'd rather not know who she was, but thank God she's not the governor or the mayor or whatever anymore in Chicago. But I think they liked the NASCAR race when they ran it up there. That was pretty interesting.
Well, the scary thing about that is trying to explain to people there's Chicago, and then there's people that say they live in Chicagoland. Chicagoland is about 80 million miles around the city. The city's only populated with like 5 million people, and there's the surrounding suburbs. And I grew up in one of the suburbs just adjacent to it, Skokie, and then Buffalo Grove on the north end. But I mean, that race was out in Joliet area, which is like almost 80 miles out of the city. It's like, oh, Chicagoland racing.
No. That was Chicagoland. They don't race in Chicagoland.
They don't
anymore.
do that one anymore? Okay.
They did the street race. They did 2 years in a row. They did a race.
Oh, they did the downtown. Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And what was funny was the first time they did it, it was miserable. They were supposed to have all concerts and everything, and it just rained profusely for days. So in order to deal with that, NASCAR came up with treaded tires to use for the street race in the rain. So they did that. So they raced it. And sure enough, a guy wins that first race, the inaugural race in the city from Australia, Shane Van Ginsberg. It's either Australia or New Zealand he's from. And it was just like all the NASCAR drivers were like, man, he kicked our butt. He ran circles around all of us because he knows how to race that kind of race. These guys, they were used to ovals. They're used to a regular road course that's strictly a road course. They never raced on city streets before. So that I shouldn't say they never did it before. Years ago, maybe they've done it in a couple of towns. But this type of thing was a big deal. And this year they did it again, and it was actually pretty successful because the weather was nice. All the concerts took place. I mean, you had stuff going on all over that city. And but I get what you're saying because I'm from New Jersey, and people say, "Oh, you're from New York." I'm like, 6 miles outside of New York. I was in New Jersey,
Right.
but and you see people you talk to anybody from Long Island, Staten Island, Bronx, Brooklyn, or Manhattan, and only the people in Manhattan call it this. Manhattan is the city. The rest of it's the suburbs. But they say it's part of the 5 boroughs of the city.
Right.
But technically, to me, it's all the city. No, it's
Right.
not. Staten Island get mad at you if you say they're the city. They don't like that. Same with Staten Island and Brooklyn. Bronx, it's its own animal. It's unbelievable. But the Yankees are there, so I don't hate them. So anyway, Chuck, I think we've talked about this. It would be nice if anybody had questions. Nobody has questions. I don't know why.
It comes up after.
But that's what's going to happen. They'll put it in the comments after we go off live.
And it's specific to what your particular need is, usually. I mean, and that's okay. That's actually just fine. So reach out to us any way that works best for you.
Like I came to you when I got my 705, and I want to use the Matt tuner, and you guys custom made cables with BNCs on them. One BNC go from the radio to the Matt tuner, the other one a BNC going to an SO239 for the antenna. And I was like, this is great. And they're perfect. They're the perfect size for inside the backpack. So it worked out great. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you helping me out there. The thing is, you're American. You're in Texas, right?
Yeah, we're in Texas. Everything is actually made in the States from a raw material standpoint, except for the connectors. There are not enough machines to do that as far as a quality product. So that does come from overseas. We stay away from Chinese stuff because just the quality and how much stuff you'd have to junk.
Right.
So most of our manufacturers are either in Taiwan, Japan, Korea, or we actually have some European, mostly in Germany, as far as connectors and stuff like that go. The reason why we all the cables here in the States is it's economical for us, plus the quality is phenomenal. Plus the mills that we know, my father and I, probably for the better part of about, I'd say the 40 years, plus relationships that we have with these. So, I mean, we are really so close with them. And that's one of those things that
all right. Here's a very important question. Do you have a son?
Do I have a son? No, I don't.
Somebody's gonna have to run this when you're done with it. Somebody's gonna have to keep this going because this is
so Generation 3 is here.
I don't want you going the way of MFJ. I want you to stay in business.
So we have Generation 3. My niece and nephew, Jack and Ella, are around. They're exposed to stuff. They learn things. They'll tie into it in time. They're still a little bit on the younger side, and from our standpoint, working on them for their education and some other stuff is probably one of our bigger things. But they'll be involved in it. It won't go the way of the dodo or anything else.
Good, because this is a great company. It's an American company, and you sell all over the world. You don't just sell in the United States, and it's good. And a lot of people don't look for the future. They see the here and now. Am I making enough money today? Am I doing this today? But hey, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, will you still be here? That's the thing. And I'm sure if the free enterprise system is anything at all, God forbid you guys decide to end the business, somebody will pick up the slack. Because if there's a need, what's the saying? Build a better mousetrap. The world will beat a path to your door. So keep up the good work. We love it. Sounds like the Aries net is going to start any second now. That's my other radio making noise.
Gotcha.
But anyway, it'll be great to just keep using this stuff. I love it. You've treated me well. For those watching, I didn't even think of getting an affiliation. I just told Chuck that I had a YouTube channel, and he said he would help me out and set up an affiliate link for me so you guys could use the coupon to get a discount. He was the first company to come to me and say they wanted to help be part of the YouTube channel. And I thank you for that, Chuck.
Anytime.
And that was 2 years ago in Huntsville. You said that to me, and I went, YouTube? Meanwhile, my Elmer thinks every YouTuber is a millionaire. They're not. I'm telling you right now, nobody's making $1 million on YouTube. Not
No.
us. Not us. You ham radio guys. Not us. But yeah, you can make some money on YouTube. But the better thing is the affiliations. And Chuck was the first one to jump in and help me out with that. And I greatly appreciate that, Chuck. And you gave me hope that, hey, maybe this will work. Maybe I could do something. So now I got you. I got EMP Shield. I got no competitors. I don't have any competitors. So I got you, EMP Shield, Ham Radio Prep, and Silent, which is slnt.com. Although I don't know if that affiliation is working because I haven't made a penny from it, and I bought stuff. So I bought stuff and used the
Yeah,
coupon
you should
code.
get something back. Yeah.
I should see something like 50 cents here, 50 cents there, but nothing. But ABR, people have bought ABR cable through my code, and I've seen results. And also EMP Shield is another one that works good. So they were at Huntsville. That's where I met them in Huntsville. I got to work with them. I think I can get $50 off coupons on that for you guys to use. I'm going to look into it besides just the percentage discount. If I can get the $50 off coupon, that makes these things even more affordable for you. The guy that I got into it with and I bought my thing from gave me a $50 coupon. I think they give out a limited number of those. So if they do, I will get that. So you can get that if you want to buy an EMP shield for your house. It's the same thing the electric company sells, except you don't have to pay a monthly fee for it. Once you install it, you're done. And it's so easy to install. I even did a video on that. So Chuck, thank you so much for coming. We've been on the air about an hour, and I greatly appreciate all your support and everything you do. So thank you very much.
Everybody,
have a great night.
Be well.
And enjoy relaxing over the weekend so you don't have to go to Huntsville. You can put your feet up and watch a football game, a baseball game or something.
Oh, if I'm in town, my wife has stuff for me to do. So, all right.
All right, Chuck. Take care. Thank you very much. Have a great night. All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. This is Mike, KO4PDI. We had 13 people here, and I greatly appreciate all your support. So thank you very much. Have a great night. And remember what I always say. What do I always say? Come on, you guys know what I always say. I don't hear it. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, at least not without me. 73.